torsades, but you have been working on tachycardia, which is not as worse, but it's still bad. And if it's like pulseless, then you have to do the feeding. So from what I've seen, and I'll talk about adverse events, you have enough time between seeing like electrical changes and seeing like vital signs getting worse. You have enough time to call the emergency. You have like dozens of minutes to groups of hours to act before it gets really bad. And what happens with some providers is they aren't fully, there's no strict vigilance, people are there all the time. Then worsens the situation. Somebody might be struggling, and it may be the experience, so they ignore, or it might be the medication. They don't know. But then eventually, if somebody's struggling, or issues like being seizure prone, or maybe yeah, you have the QT prolongs, but that's not the main thing. The T wave changes always. Yeah, they should. And as long as you have T wave changes almost always kill everyone. QT and T wave. I haven't seen anyone. Well, maybe one or two guys, tons of ibogaine and QT, which is strange. But I can understand how you ingest it, then it gets absorbed, then it goes to the liver, and then it goes to the blood-brain barrier. I don't know. It's not very researched. But some people are less sensitive in the heart enzymes. There's these current receptors. So maybe some people are less sensitive because they have tons of experiences. There's tons of neurological activity that says that they're responsible for heart effects. But with the heart, you have some hours and you see the T becomes like flatter. Sometimes it's double back biphasic, right? And the biphasic is like the two phases might like distance themselves. So some people say it's like the ventricle, the right and left, like repolarizing at different times. That's why it's biphasic. When you see those things, it's still fine, but when you see the QRS change, then it's no longer fine.
Bob Cisco.
Yeah, that's hard.
I don't know if we have any kind of slides. Do you have slides, Bob? Yeah. So come on up here and sit next to me. Yeah. Here, why don't you come over and sit here? No, Joe, sit in the middle. Yeah. Okay. So it is unfortunate Claire went to sleep, but she did. Claire has actually been treating somebody for Parkinson's, and she has all this fascinating comparisons. Yeah, but I can abstract the stuff from the part I can't talk about, which involves patient confidentiality. She said there's some strange resonances or resemblances between drug withdrawal, as she's observed it in meth and heroin dependent people, and people who have Parkinson's. In other words, they have certain bad times of the day, right? And that's in common with both addicts and Parkinson's people. I am working right now with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene in New York City. They're a little bit uncomfortable with me. They would rather work with people from Columbia University, obviously. But the problem is the people from Columbia University are testing a couple drugs the recharge program is already using, because this is off-label use of Wellbutrin and Adderall. And naltrexone, everybody knows in the addiction field what naltrexone is. This is a long-acting form of Narcan. And what it is, it's a derivative of thebaine. People are kind of mystified. What is this buprenorphine, Suboxone stuff? There's another alkaloid in the opium poppy. And unlike morphine, it doesn't depress your respiratory function so that you can actually die of an overdose. It's a stimulant, but it does bind to the receptor with much greater affinity than morphine, so that if you have any morphine-based stuff like diacetylmorphine, which is heroin, and you have some Narcan, you have an overdose, you shoot the person up with Narcan, and of course they wake up and they're really, really angry at you for being in withdrawal. Of course, they would have died. They would have died, but they're usually pretty pissed off at that point. You know, so the point is, with methamphetamine, people tend not to think about methamphetamine, but like I said, it's a much more pure example of the syndrome that we're really treating long term, which is desensitization of the dopaminergic system. So you're just not getting enough. And what happens when you don't have your dopamine system is you can't put things together, right? And Joe will talk a little bit about this. One of the first things that went away was some of the confusion went away. So what happens when you do methamphetamine for a long period of time is you get Parkinsonianism, which is drug-induced Parkinson's. I'm going to Prague to see if we can set up a microdosing trial of Ibogaine for Parkinson's and for methamphetamine. And probably they will do the methamphetamine and not do the Parkinson's. But that's fine. We'll just do methamphetamine because we're dealing with a specific bureaucracy that's tasked to deal with their biggest drug of abuse in the Czech Republic, which is not opiates. It's Pervatin, which is the old German name for methamphetamine from 1939. So the thing that I have, and I don't really have it here, though I guess we could play it. Is there any way we can get the patient D video up? It's only 11 minutes. It's on YouTube. Well, you've all seen it, right? How many people here have seen Patient D on YouTube? Right? Many people have seen it. You can go see it. The important point is, after 20 days, there's a really robust, tangible effect from a very minute dose of Ibogaine. It was 4 milligrams twice a day for 28 days. And after that, he could button his shirt again. He could use a pen. He could use a knife and a fork. Wasn't perfect. And the next week, he got up to about a 70% improvement. In the next month, rather. So it continued to improve.
Improved so much that he could button his shirt.
Yeah.
Which was a major accomplishment because he was unable to do that for a very long time.
Anyway, the point is, there's a problem with hERG channel blockade. And I would propose that hERG channel blockade just simply isn't a factor at 4 milligrams per kilogram. So if we have such a robust effect with GDNF, we can give Ibogaine safely in the microdose, and it will affect methamphetamine dependency. Anyway, I'm going to give Bob over to talk for a minute because he wanted to.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dana. So we began the development of a product called Ibo Plus. And it was designed originally to be an adjunct to Ibogaine treatment because after a person was detoxified and we would have something that he could take on a basis to give him a gentle little reminder of the Ibogaine experience. It had 4 milligrams of Ibogaine in each capsule, along with 12 vitamins and minerals. That was what the plus was, Ibo Plus. And I formulated it, and we had it manufactured in Canada in a CGMP facility, and it's actually an FDA inspected facility. They in Canada at the time, Ibogaine was considered a natural health product, and we were very lucky because in the U.S. it was a Schedule 1 drug. So I used to have to go up to Canada every month and do things up there relating to Ibogaine because I couldn't possess it in New York, where I live, but in Canada, it was a piece of cake. And so we decided to make this as an adjunct to treatment that for post-treatment, that people could go home with a bottle of Ibo Plus and take 1 or 2 a day, and it would help them get through what they might have to go through. But we found that it was very effective. Because it got out of that range and got into the hands of people who were just very interested in it. And people with Parkinson's were experimenting with it and finding that it relieved many of the symptoms, not only the physical, but the non-motor symptoms. Because Parkinson's has distinct non-motor symptoms, and they include depression and anxiety and a whole host of psychological ailments related to the disease. And this brought them into a state of relaxation and comfort. They brought them into a new comfort zone, and they were really amazed at how this worked. And as I said, people began to regain certain motor functions as well, like this fellow who could was thrilled that he could button his shirt after having great difficulty in tying his shoes and buttoning his shirt and things like that. And so it was very, very promising, and we were moving along beautifully until one day Health Canada raided our offices and seized every drop that we had. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to reproduce it. But we have plans of going to Brazil and manufacturing a new lot. It's a considerable project to manufacture this, but it's on the drawing board, and so.
So before this is Joe Mellon. Joe Mellon is the ex-husband of Amanda Fielding of the Beckley Foundation. And some time ago, I talked to Hattie Wells, who will be here a little later. You're here? Well, why don't you come up here? You're supposed to be up here. Come on. Come on. Come on, Hattie. Come on. You got stuff to say. You don't have to be prepared. This is a very spontaneous panel. We're just saying what's on our mind. Well, I'm about to say this about Hattie then. I gave her the tincture for Joe, and it was necessary for me to go to London to actually get the tincture given to Amanda. Somehow it just languished there on the shelf for 4 months. And I think that the breakthrough that we had in this particular situation is really important. Because, people know other people closely, but they really only know the people that they know closely. You understand what I mean? You're not influenced by strangers. A lot of times a stranger comes up to you, you just dismiss whatever they have to say. But Amanda could not be here, but Joe is here. And that, in the end, could be as important. You can't tell because he knows all the same people she knows. And he was the obvious person to try the tincture out on. And what we did was we gave him a bottle of Anwar's tincture and said, take 5 drops in the morning and 5 drops in the afternoon. Here.
So I did. Yeah. And I took it for until the bottle was empty, and I managed to get another one. So altogether, I suppose, about 6 months. And after probably a few weeks, I began to notice things. Oh, I began to notice things. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. And the first thing, the only symptom I have of Parkinson's, and it's very early stages, they told me, and they said it's also benign, whatever that means it progresses very slowly, is a tremor in my right hand, which is, can you see it?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah, yeah, but it's there all the time. And I don't take any medication for it or anything like that. But the other thing that I noticed was fuzziness in the mind. And generally in my life I've been clear-headed and clear-thinking. And this was upsetting because I found in things like, for example, driving somewhere and I didn't know where to go and trying to work out the instructions, I was just getting, oh Christ, confused and annoyed. And after taking the Ibogaine for a few weeks, I realized that I was feeling a lot clearer in the mind. And that's a very important thing. And that has remained with me. So I felt sharper. So that's one thing. The tremor, it wasn't affected, but it's not important, so that wasn't really to worry about. The other thing, I noticed my dreams were very vivid, and I attributed that to the Ibogaine. I mean, every night I was having very vivid dreams, which is very nice. I like that. And the other thing was that I'm 79, and as a young man, and even most of my life as a male, I've been accustomed, or had been accustomed, to every now and then in the morning waking up with a morning erection. I forget what the term is for that, but it happens to all males. You just wake up.
It's because of the REM.
Right, whatever it is. Anyway, but that I hadn't had for years. I only sort of thought about it when suddenly one morning I woke up with one again. Oh my God, this is amazing, you know. And so I would say that it had a definite effect on the libido. And I think that's about all really of the effects, but that's enough. Sharpness of the brain, increased libido. Yeah.
Good for the bamboo, man. Good for the bamboo.
Okay, so in the treatment of meth users, there's this thing called chemsex, and it's like they're talking about this in harm reduction circles, where people are basically consuming a mixture of chemicals, including some Viagra, including some methamphetamine, maybe some GHB, and maybe some ketamine. But the objective is to have sex for days, right? And the problem is that, okay, you saw Dennis Perone in the history I did yesterday. In about 2001, Dennis Perone started, he's a 60-year-old hippie, gay guy in San Francisco. And he starts doing methamphetamine with younger guys for sex. It wore him down, and eventually he had a stroke that really, really made it so he couldn't be a dynamic public speaker anymore. I had someone go to him and try to give him Ibogaine because we had another friend named Carl Awolowo Johnson in New York City, who had been blinded by a stroke and then took Ibogaine, and he could see again. And as a matter of fact, this anti-stroke effect is pretty. I got Ken monitoring a guy now in Ohio, so it's pretty potent. But we knew in the beginning, right, from before, well, right around the time all the stuff came out that Dorit Ron, published in 2005, right? And in the stuff that she published, they noted that GDNF had been injected into the brain, the base of the brains of Parkinson's patients. And they didn't discontinue this trial because it wasn't working. It had very promising results. But GDNF is a very large protein, and it's hard to get it to go through the blood-brain barrier. It just doesn't happen. So the fact that we could have a small molecule that could go in and do this meant that we could go back and look at Parkinson's all over again, because the bean counters at the corporation wouldn't veto the whole thing due to liability, which is what happened to that particular study. So I was like writing about this about 3 or 4 years before it happened, saying we should try this for Parkinson's. They were right on, it's all connected, you see, because Parkinson's and alcohol abuse, not drug abuse, just plain old alcohol abuse, were studied very closely with this GDNF. And GDNF, I think, was discovered right around the time we needed it to deal with the NIDA, to give them a reason why they shouldn't cancel the Ibogaine project. But unfortunately, nobody told us in time, and nobody found out that Ibogaine is an extremely potent GDNF releaser until 2005. So it's like 10 years too late to keep the program from being canceled. But when I showed this same set of slides, the very slides I show here, but a more primitive version, in New Zealand, I think to Jeff Noller, that resulted in New Zealand going ahead with all kinds of like Ibogaine stuff, because it was something that could account for a persistent effect with Ibogaine. And, the whole question is, how can this stuff be having a persistent effect? Nothing works like that. Heroin wears off, Trexan wears off, methamphetamine wears off. How could this persistent effect be? So we are now at a situation where we ought to be able to get, the Michael J. Fox Foundation to study this, because it works. But probably we're going to be able to make more progress with crystal meth, because the decision makers in that field of research admit that they really don't have anything at all that works. And in New York, they say they're going to get rid of AIDS in a year. In a year, right? In 2020, AIDS is supposed to be gone. Does anybody here actually think that's going to happen? Huh? Well, the thing is, they're committed to spending $200 million to make it happen. So maybe we can get some money. Claire actually can say a lot of stuff that we don't have, because she knows
I
more
can
than
say
we do.
some things.
Some things.
If I can get a water. I need a water. Hi. Where are we on the topic? Hello, hello, hello.
Just come to the first natural break where we can't figure out what to say to you.
Ah, yay. Okay, cool. Well, so where are we? What's the general consensus on how to treat Parkinson's with Ibogaine?
Well, do you have any insights on this?
Yeah, I got my insights. I'm just wondering where we are as a group.
Well, all we know is that Joe took 5 drops in the morning and 5 drops in the evening, and then he ran out.
Anwar's juice?
No, he ran out. Now we got to get more Ibogaine for Joe.
Okay, but it was Anwar's TA alkaloid tincture?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 drops in the day and 5. Okay,
in the morning,
so we
5
can't
in the
actually even assess how much Ibogaine that is
Well,
actually.
we're thinking it's something like a dose of Ibo Plus, maybe 4 milligrams.
That's quite wishful, but I'll kind of go with it. Okay, well, I can talk about some things in general, and then I can't talk about specifics. I've been working on a Parkinson's project for 5 months, and are we being filmed somewhere? Or? Yes. Oh, where? Over there? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm working with a group of people that are not just interested, but actively working on Parkinson's research, and starting with mice up to humans. And we need, case studies, people who are working with Parkinson's and Ibogaine, and as many as there are, in order to get in touch with Ken Alper or Hattie Wells or me. There's also a neurologist in the UK who wishes to remain anonymous at the moment because of probably his career and what happens to someone when they attach themselves to the Ibogaine. But anyway, we have a really great group of professionals that are involved with Parkinson's research, and we have Amanda as well interested as a result of, well, not just seeing Joe's response, but even before that, she knows when she hears of something working and she sees something going on and she's wants to support that. And so we're very much looking for that. Fundraising is huge, Ken is looking for $500,000 just to start the mice study in London. And so I'm just putting that straight out there because I'm not really a great fundraiser or anything. So hi, universe, $500,000 so we can show what we know, which is that Ibogaine does actually have a positive effect on Parkinson's disease. And I've seen it. We've Pangea, we've had 2 clients with advanced stage Parkinson's, one with 9 years since diagnosis and one with 10. And I can't go into detail, except that an incredible amount of motor coordination was restored, mental clarity, the need for less dopamine. Many take a lot of Cinemet, and as a result of taking so much Cinemet, just like as one takes so much Xanax or so much opioid, you need more. There's the rebound effect and the withdrawal effect. And I don't know where you are in your Cinemet dose or your levodopa dose. Oh, okay. Did you switch? Did you jump off? Oh, well, most and the majority are taking some kind of.
It's just a tremor in the
Yes, right. And we have seen. I mean, we see so many different formations of it, and our most recent client actually didn't have a lot of motor coordination issues. It was more dystonia and a sedentary life, and also a lot of confusion and a lot of depression. And usually, the main combinations that we see are things that we see in dependency treatments, polysubstance dependency treatments. We see a dopamine analog. We see usually a benzo, and we see an antidepressant. I see those 3 with Parkinson's, because I'm getting a lot of more inquiries now since I'm kind of getting known that I'm working with it, and people are referring to me or asking me questions, and also I'm doing all this research on it, and I see this trio. That's quite a trio, It's like heroin, Xanax, and Prozac. How would you guys treat that? How many weeks? How much preparatory time? what kind of, adjunct medicine are you going to be using? Is it all Ibogaine that you put for all 3 issues? I mean, how do you do that? And we're going to discuss that. Benzos aren't on the schedule, by the way, and I'm just going to always push that in there, that if we can get benzos in there to talk about, because they're the snipers and the fatalities and adverse events. So, and I'm dealing with it in regard to the Parkinson's treatment. We're dealing with that as an issue. Spasms, people experience spasms with Parkinson's disease, and also people deal with sleeplessness, and so many are put on either Ambien or Xanax, which result in more insomnia and also a negative effect on Parkinson's symptoms. So, what do I have to say? We have figured out, in terms of the group that we're working with and the client that we're currently working with, and we're doing it on a one-by-one human individual basis, that it looks about 20 milligrams twice a day of hydrochloride is the best dosing protocol in the morning and the afternoon. That starts to affect sleep, yes, but that also decreases the amount of active Parkinson's symptoms. And the sleep issue is an issue to be dealt with to begin with. Are you dealing with sleep issues?
I don't have any sleep issues.
Interesting. And that's a thing that's to discuss, is TA versus hydrochloride. So if we can somehow segue into that at some point, because that's something that we also explored during our treatment, is the use of total alkaloid and hydrochloride and the benefits we receive from total alkaloid. A lot of benefits. We used not only daily dosing, but we also did flood dosing. Within 3 months, the Parkinson's patient had 3 floods.
TA is the bottle, yeah? The liquid.
No, we're using hydrochloride or total alkaloid extract.
What was I using?
You were using a tincture, and we're talking about powder. Just a little confusion about, exactly what we're talking about up here.
It's important to clarify it for numerous reasons.
Well, yeah. The tincture thing is nice. It's kind of a novelty, but more people are using, what Ibo Plus was made out of was very pure hydrochloride. But presumably, you could have the same effect with 60% as much purified total alkaloid. So that's just an extrapolation based on what it does with drugs. I want to add something else in light of this libido thing and the chemsex. After people try to quit meth, right, who've been using it for years, right, they have no sex drive. So having something that would bring back the sex drive without having to go back on meth is going to have to be important if you're going to deal with the chemsex problem. So it's a useful thing. What do they mostly use it for in Cabana's re-regulation of endocrine? Yeah, that's what they mostly use it for. Where it comes from is re-regulation of endocrine.
It definitely increases sex drive. That occurred with the Parkinson's patient as well, which is something that decreases with Parkinson's. I'm not sure if you mentioned it. Did that increase for you? That increase for you?
I was telling them that I woke up one morning with an erection, which I hadn't done for years.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Well, it also speaks to the beauty of total alkaloid, and I want to bring that into a discussion somewhere along this weekend, if we can get into a discussion about that. And the fact that you're not sleeping, the fact that you're sleeping is just so wonderful, because they're, as I think, modulating alkaloids in the plant, in the root. It's not just Ibogaine in there. And why are these other alkaloids there? And why are people able to sleep after a bit of TA, whereas on that same amount of a hydrochloride they'd be wide awake? So just something to talk about, and it's something that came up while we were discussing what the protocols are for Parkinson's. And when I said the 20, I don't want to be quoted and quoted, but I said that's one of the protocols that we realized works for Parkinson's is 20 and 20 per day is a useful dose for a 85 kilo gentleman who's 60. So, also mentioning the side effects and that we're also looking at other ways to use Ibogaine. The thing is, you can study hydrochloride when it's pure in GMP, as Dana mentioned, in studies in total alkaloid. We don't have a standardized total alkaloid, so we cannot study that. So it's people avoid even doing case studies or even working on looking at that because they think, well, you won't be able to have that to use in a study anyway. And I just see the advantage of it, and I know what the data is and what we came up with in our work, which we will show later, and the benefits of using total alkaloid. And Joe right here is showing us. He's sleeping.
What I don't know is what the dose was I was taking. Those bottles, can you remember how much was in that?
Anwar,
The tincture?
was in the bottle of tincture about in a whole bottle?
The 2 milliliters? Is it a 2 milliliter bottle?
Yes, it was.
We worked this out. What you were taking was about 5 milligrams.
Do you think? I thought it was even less than that. Yeah.
It seems
Oh,
less.
it was 5 milligrams.
4 to 5 milligrams.
Oh, really?
Of
Okay.
Ibogaine.
Of Ibogaine, yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
Well, it was in the tinctures.
But he's having 4 to 5 drops. How could there be 1 milligram in one drop?
I think, how many drops were you taking?
5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. But in the bottle, that was a tincture, so there must have been not that much
0.25.
actual Ibogaine in it. Yeah. I think it was a very small dose. Right. Right. Oh, right.
We recommend an average of 10 drops a day. Helps people tremendously, even for stress, anxiety, just maybe had a bit of burnout, but we haven't really tested it, but I think she just, well, I think you've tested it, I think, you've given me.
No, we didn't test it, but we just put it
Come sit up here. Cisco, you want to do your presentation like this? With Patty up here. Yeah.
The reason that I didn't
Put on a
come
suit,
is because I've literally just come off a plane.
Yeah.
I had a really busy week, and I haven't prepared anything. But
We want to keep you talking.
You're right.
just in terms of the tincture, of Anwar's tincture, I think we worked it out basically that if you're taking 10 drops, then you're getting the equivalent of about 6 milligrams of Ibogaine per day.
Per day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you take the 5 drops in the morning.
Yes.
But it's very rough because you also said that there were different,
But what
different
I
batches
noticed
and
was
different
after a period
bottles.
of doing it every single day, I noticed that my heart was beginning to race a bit. And I thought, all right, I'll cut it down. And I cut it down, but it didn't. It still had the effect. It still. The main effect was the sharpness of the clarity of thinking, which was restored, I'd say, because I was getting a bit fuzzy and a bit confused by things.
And so did you stop taking it because you ran out, or did you?
I stopped, first of all, I stopped taking it twice a day. I started taking it once a day. And then I stopped taking it for maybe a few days and then started again, just starting having gaps. And that didn't seem to make any difference. The clarity remained. So I think I was taking an unnecessary amount, but maybe it's a good idea to have taken that to begin with to get the effect. But I think from now on, if I can get some more, which I think I'm going to, I won't take it so regularly.
You said you didn't have any tremor issues?
No,
And
I didn't have any.
But I
No.
sense you and see your hand tremoring right now as I sit
Yes.
next to you. Is that a result of since you started taking Ibogaine?
No. That was why I was diagnosed as Parkinson's.
So you did have some tremor issues,
I had this. This is the tremor I had. but
and
it
that
didn't
stayed
make
the
any
same,
di-
and
yeah,
that
it
stayed the same. Okay.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's minor.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was just curious.
And I don't take anything for it apart from Ibogaine.
And
It
it
didn't
does-
make any difference, the Ibogaine. But it made a big difference to the libido and to the mind, which, I mean, you
That's
know,
fantastic.
I don't care about the tremor. I do care about the mind and the libido. Yeah.
Claire, I have a question for you. On the 20 milligrams twice a day, have you noticed anything going on with the heart? What have you noticed?
Yeah, we've done repeated ECGs and vitals regularly, and if anything came up, we would have stopped, and we had times of pauses just to have rest days. But he's been able to handle it daily for a while. He's got a very strong heart, and no QT prolongation, despite using hydrochloride for such a while, even in the small doses. And if there's no inflammation, no acidosis, there's no pain, there's no disease. Yeah, Fred?
Have you looked into antioxidation therapies?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very,
So
very much.
molecular hydrogen. Have you ever worked with it? Or?
Molecular hydrogen? Are you talking
Yeah,
about like
so
ozone therapy?
It's no.
Molecular
it's like
hydrogen.
hydrogen.
Hydrogen chambers?
When it's molecular, it's H2. So it can be on a liquid, like a serum, or inside water. You can have a machine to create that molecular hydrogen. And what it does, it helps all those antioxidants you have naturally in your body to oxidismutase and all those enzymes to prevent inflammation and diseases like rheumatoid arthritis have shown as good as effects as methotrexate. It has no side effects because it's just an antioxidant enabled. And with stuff like autoimmune diseases, I think it's a great thing to use as a side adjunct.
Yeah, I don't have a familiarity with working with that, but if you do, I think it's important for everybody. I mean, this field is building now.
You should talk into the microphone.
It can be used IV, orally, as nasal cannula. It
Yeah.
works anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of something similar. We may be thinking of a similar thing that I think is called something different than you are, but anyway, nevertheless.
It's like a pH, when people talk about water pH and whatever, but it's not about taking something alkaline, it's about their alkalinity power. It's like the power of a substance or a chemical to alkalinize your body. You understand?
Yes, when we have been doing that with our client, and we do that actually in general with all of our clients, is we work with alkalinity, and
Bicarbonate or something?
we use various different substances, from foods to supplements to chemicals, but it's usually with food. I mean, there's certain people you have to just use pills or IVs with, but hopefully with food they get to that point. Dana, where would you like this to go?
Well, I wanted to finish a couple of earlier things, but I would say in the future, Ibogaine might be given with Cinemet because the anti-beta arrestin effect means that you could feel your Cinemet again, and you don't need as much. Basically, you build up a tolerance to Cinemet, just like I build up a tolerance to clopidogrel, Build up a tolerance to all kinds of things. If Ibogaine has this one effect of canceling out tolerance, it will work across a bunch of different tolerances, and that's through the kappa opiate. Poor Dennis. He turned the Ibogaine down. We came to him. Maybe it was because we sent Krista, and Krista isn't the most impressive person. But I think it was just because John Entwistle says no to everything. John Entwistle was Dennis's husband. So he could have recovered. He could have, given speeches again. Instead, it impacted negatively on marijuana legalization because he kind of came out with this paranoid rap against legalization in 2011. And we could have legalized pot in the United States 5 years earlier if somebody from the marijuana side hadn't been a little, I think, deranged by methamphetamine. But what ended up happening was, in the end, Dennis was almost dead, right? He had Agent Orange syndrome. He was in the hospital. He beat cancer, and then he quit meth after, almost 16 years. And there's pictures of him giving the thumbs up, but he never really recovered because he was just too messed up. In the end, he died, like a lot of my friends, from tobacco, COPD. He couldn't exchange the carbon dioxide in his blood for the oxygen in the air. So there's a lot of different drugs out there that are killing people. Tobacco kills about 450,000 people a year in the United States. I don't know how many people it kills globally, but something like 1/3 of everybody who does Ibogaine spontaneously quits tobacco. So that could be a bigger lifesaver than any other drug. And if we get rid of alcohol, well, I guess the world will have to smoke pot.
Where is that data from? The one third who stopped smoking cigarettes after Ibogaine. Where's that data from?
That was what we, this is the 90s when we were just doing treatments in the Netherlands. That's from that period of time, and we did an estimate. Because you remember, the classic thing is Nico tries to smoke a cigarette, and he can't complete smoking a cigarette because it tastes so terrible. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So some people quit without intending to. I went in to get rid of my heroin, but I got this bonus. I'm not going to die of COPD when I'm 65. Okay.
All right, we're done. Thank you very much for the panelists. So just a reminder, anyone that wants to go for dinner and hang out on Saturday, leave your name with Mafalda, who's sitting next to the chap with the blue jumper. We're going to go to a place called Mouse Habitos, which has been recommended by lots of people. So it'd be nice if we all go out, but we need to know numbers because we need to book, basically. So let her know if you can. Now in the break, we have a 10-minute break, and then we have a Zoom presentation on Iboga sustainability. Hello, hello. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you. You can't hear me so well? This stinks of Dana, this fucking microphone. Hold on a sec, 1 second. Okay. Fuck, man, this really
It's
stinks
not
of
so
Dana.
powerful.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you not so well, but I can. But I can't see you.
It's okay. Yeah, we don't have a camera.
Okay, I do understand. Okay. Can you hear us as well?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
Okay, great.
It's just a tea break at the moment.
Okay.
Hey, Dave.
Okay, how are you doing?
Hi, Jeremy. It's David as well.
We're not projecting you yet. We're just setting up the projector.
Oh, right.
It's a good news.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
Can you see us?
Yeah, you're looking good. Hi, David.
Ah, thanks.
Hi.
You recognize the place?
Yeah,
Okay.
looking nice.
Yeah. Thanks. So how is the conference?
It's going really well. About
Okay, good.
about 60 people here, maybe.
60 people?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
from all over the world as well.
Okay. Okay. And there is some good new knowledges to receive?
I can't hear him. It went quiet then.
Sorry?
It's quite noisy here because people are chatting, Jan.
I do understand. Okay.
So we'll start in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try to do something for the sound meanwhile.
Okay.
Maybe the sound can come. Audio. Speaker. Sortie intégrée. Yes. Jeremy?
Yes, I can hear. Yep.
Great, it works.
It's better. It's louder
Got
for
it.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I will.
That's great.
I did already, but I will remind them. Did you have a nice sleep?
Yes. Please. Sorry? What do you say?
Sorry, I'm chatting with someone else, Jan.
Okay. I can have a joint.
You can have a joint?
Yeah, thank you. This is professional.
That kind of looks too zoomed in, Sebastiano. Does it? It's like a little bit out of focus. Or a little bit pixelated. Or... The problem is that it'll be like this then, look. Oh, no. Okay. Better that way then. I'm going to have a bit of a smoke. Back in 2 minutes.
So who's this? No, Dennis McKenna.
Yeah. Dennis McKenna, loads of other people.
Loads of people.
About 60 people who are key people in.
Cool. And you're the centre, are you?
He's Jan's main, one of the speakers.
Okay. Awesome. And I can come in and listen? Yeah, John said it was okay.
Yeah, just keep the door closed. Yeah.
Really? Yeah. What is combo? Jeff? Mitchell. You don't remember his combo?
No.
I broke my toe.
Quite long.
When did that happen? I walked into my suitcase 6 weeks ago.
You should have seen the suitcase though, right?
It was terrible because I thought everything was fine and I ignored it. I just stubbed my toe, whatever. I was running, walking, and then after about 3 weeks, it's like, oh fuck, this is still painful. I went to the hospital.
Of course.
X-ray, and they said, well, you probably had a hairline.
Take the blessings.
You probably had a hairline fracture behind.
Oh, attends, on commence dans 3 minutes.
And the X-ray showed that it was just like a break in the bone all the way.
On commence dans 3 minutes. C'est quoi le combo de Jeff? Ouais.
So it was like a fracture
Révédé.
running down the length of the toe.
Révédé, bassé. Ok, je suis là, on est en direct, on commence tout de suite.
Diagonally across the bone. Wow.
Wow, ma bolo, ma bolo. Ok. Ok, you. À plus. Révédé.
Riveting.
Is that? Oh, okay. That's that.
Ça va?
I have to talk 1 hour in English
Bon
in
courage.
front of 60 guys who hate me, like Marmite. So,
That's their problem.
huh?
That's their problem.
So, unfortunately, I got this guy. He looks really much more nicer than me.
And he looks.
He looks, yeah.
Let's see what they say, right?
So, it's the 3rd time I talk with them. The first time I went to South Africa in 2012. Second time in Mexico.
So it is Jita,
Same guys.
but not Jita.
It's not Jita, but most of guys of Jita are part of that.
So, but Jita is not disbanded.
It's still alive, yeah. It's
still
not dissoluted.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still alive. But it's not the same.
It is not running.
No, Jamie
Jeremy
is
is running.
yeah.
This and Jita. He
Okay.
runs both.
We can
He runs
start.
Jita and this one, yeah?
This
Sab?
is with Alvaro Differenti.
Sabas, are you
Just
ready?
Barasa.
Yeah, the guy from
Jan?
Portugal.
Yeah,
David?
yes.
Okay, we're going to start in 2 minutes.
Ah, great. I'm here. I can have the time to roll second joint.
Okay, everybody, we're going to start. We are going to start. Dana Beal. People are just coming back in the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, everybody.
They're ready.
Hmm?
I don't let anybody
Dana, we're starting.
think of
Is there?
okay.
January.
All right.
That's it.
There is McKenna. Lots of. Yeah.
Okay.
Chief, the club.
Okay, Jan, David. I know you can't
Yes.
see us.
Yes.
Which you can't see us, which is a bit strange. Oh, you can see us. Okay. Can you see us?
Not yet. Ah, yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is me. So, quiet everybody. Right, guys, very open-ended. Can we just start by you introducing yourselves and the work you do? And then, I don't know, Jan, do you want to then start talking about the current situation in Gabon with the Iboga supply and so on? Does that sound like a good idea? Just start with introductions.
Introduction.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Yep, we can hear you.
Everybody can hear. Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeremy. And unfortunately, we don't see everybody, but maybe I know some guys of you. So everybody that I know and everybody I don't know, hi to everybody. And thank you for this invitation. We did receive it 3 days ago or 4 days ago. So unfortunately, we have not been ready, be able to prepare a document. I knew there was a conference, but unfortunately, I was obliged to be in UK. We are actually in UK, in near Glastonbury, in David Nassim's house. David is the co-director of Blessing of the Forest, and yeah, and we are in the head office of Blessing of the Forest actually. So yes, thank you for giving us the possibility to talk. I want to also apologize for my English spoken. I'm trying to improve in it. I've met some of you 2 times already in South Africa and Mexico. I know there is some misunderstanding quite often with me. So now there is David who talks fluently English. So it will help me to understand and to explain some few stuff in case there is some misunderstanding. That's it. Maybe you want to introduce you, David, quickly?
Yes, sure. I met Jan in 2014 in a conference in London, and since then I've been helping him with Lessons of the Forest and the direction that he had towards making Iboga sustainable. Mainly Jan will speak, but if I have some comments, I'll just make them. Yes, I've been interested in this subject for a few years now, and Jan has been teaching me quite a lot about Iboga in Gabon and the problems that are there. So I have quite a perspective now. I've been there a few times and been able to understand the difficulties of the problem myself. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can add that also you are the Chinese medicine practitioner,
yes, yeah.
Tai Chi professor, acupuncture too, dietitian, and you've been several times in Gabon. You have made a complete tour of Gabon with Blessing of the Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so we are supposed to talk about the actual situation in Gabon. Today we have to, everybody has to understand that politically it's quite blocked. Maybe you may know that the president got some few health problems, so most of institutions in Gabon are blocked, unfortunately. And so the period is quite critic to make things happen, to go forward. But we are still in the loop, and we still have a lot of discussion about the next step about Iboga. So actually the biggest step is about sensibilization in Gabon about the laws around Iboga. It's not the laws, yes. It's not a proper laws because Iboga has been declared as a cultural heritage in July 2000 by the ex-president Omar Bongo Ondimba. But they have no laws, specific laws that discussed about how it has to be conserved and how it has to be cultivated and how it has to be sold in Gabon and how it has to be sold out of Gabon. And as all resources on the earth, we should have this reflection about how to make it sustainable and how to share the profits that we can have from these plants. There is few laws, national laws, international laws that give us some tools to protect that resource. That there is no coercive laws actually that are applicated. The main thing that has been decided around natural resources is around the Nagoya Protocol. So the Nagoya Protocol has been signed by the Gabon in November 2011. It was the first country in the world who signed that protocol that is basically dedicated to sustainable, fair valorization of natural resources of each country who signed that protocol without dissociating the ancient use of that plant. I don't know if it's clear for you all, but it's about if that resources is used culturally by some people, we can't make something around that resource without trying to understand where it can affect these people in their culture. That is Nagoya Protocol. So that through that protocol, that blessing of the forest has been created, and that's the main discussion we have with the different Gabonese authorities. There is many Gabonese authorities that are concerned by the resources. There is the Ministry of Forest, there is the Ministry of Agriculture, there is the Ministry of the Health, there is the Ministry of the Culture, and there is the Ministry of the Security, Interior Ministry, because there is some question about borders, because most of Iboga go out Gabon through the borders, mainly Cameroonian borders. So it concerns many ministers. So the discussion is very complex, actually, and quite blocked. But we are still in the loop, mainly with the Ministry of the Forest, where there is a department called the non-timber wood product department. So Iboga is concerned as a non-timber wood product in Gabon. So it's part of general a big group of what is all the resources from the forest that are not timber. That's it? Yeah, okay. So Iboga is classifying Gabon as a PFNL. So around PFNL, there is some laws, national laws, about what can be done or it can be extracted in the public domain, in the private domain, of course, in the national park, and how it can be used by who in Gabon. Concerning Iboga, mainly there is we call that un droit coutumier, I don't know how to say that, coutume, a cultural law that allow Gabonese witty practitioners to pick up some Iboga in the public domain for the traditional use, but there is a quantity in the year that you can use per person. I don't have exactly the number under the eyes, but I can tell you that later. There is a quantity about kilos in the year. For the traditional use. That means that Iboga in the public domain in Gabon is normally reserved for local traditional use. Now, there is Iboga in the private domain. That means people who want to plant Iboga and who wants to use it for themselves. There is no problem for that, or who want to sell it. When you want to sell it in Gabon, of course, there is some rules, like having a company and paying some taxes, unfortunately, to the state, of course, and to be registered in some different ministries, to have a permission to make a business with PFNL. Now, to export Iboga or to export PFNL, non-timber wood product, you need also some sanitary certificate that explain what is exactly the resource and where it's coming from. Where it's coming from, of course, it's a necessity for traceability. I mean, we can't have sustainable development without traceability. That means that the main question is where is coming most of the Iboga that's circulating in the world, how to be sure about where it's coming from. To be sure it comes from the private domain, to know what is the age of the plant, to know what is the variety of the plant, to know if the benefits around that is fair for the people, for the communities. It's important, I think, to know that. It's even for the users. It's very important to give more sense to this to the process of getting healed. Sorry. Yeah, traceability is very important. So when we talk about traceability, we should talk about inventory. And that's the big next step that we're looking to do. It's a complete inventory in Gabon of Iboga in the public domain and Iboga in the private domain, people who plant for their own use, and Iboga also in the national park to talk about conservation. Inventory project is very important. So making an inventory on the whole country, it's a long job because of the quality of the roads, because of the the country is, most of the country is forest. So to go deep in the forest, it's not, I mean, it has to be organized quite properly. It costs quite a lot of money. A proper inventory, the cost is around 150,000 euros to make a proper inventory. And we want to do that first. So we're discussing first now with two different groups. The first group is discussing with local communities. So we have done 3 times the complete tour of Gabon, around 200 villages, to meet the communities around Gabon and to discuss with them about where there is some Iboga, do they plant Iboga, do they notice some business around Iboga, if they see it, is it more difficult to find Iboga, to ask many questions about what happens around that subject, many type of questions. And we had that question. So most of the village recognized that they stopped to practice breeding, they plant less Iboga, and they see that in the public domain it becomes more difficult to find it. They have to go more far. Of course, there is an area of Iboga into the wild, but it's clearly going down and down and down, really clearly. For example, 2 days ago, the national park did control a truck that was coming from Lambaréné, that is the central part of Gabon near the lake, and the guys had around 1 ton of Iboga in their truck. 1 ton, it's a lot of trees. The average quantity of root in a tree, it's around 25 kilos. So it makes quite a lot of trees. So you see, when you see 20 trees here, 40 trees here, 50 trees here, and on the web, we can see much more quantity of Iboga sold. It's important to know at what speed this tree are sold and if it's sustainable. In the second group we're discussing with is the national park, where they clearly arrest more and more guys entering the national park to poach the Iboga tree and other stuff, of course, other resources, like every kind of precious trees, yeah, ebony tree, but yeah, I have and also wild resources like ivory, animals and stuff. So they arrest a lot of poachers in the national park. And what we notice is there is more and more Iboga poached in the national park. And the guys who are arrested say that the guy arrested, most of them are Gabonese and Cameroonian. And when we ask to them where they enter the national park to poach Iboga, they say because there is no more Iboga out of the national park. So it's clear information about Iboga is getting less and less in the public domain. So it obliges them to enter the national park where they know it's quite dangerous for them and they could be arrested to harvest Iboga for the global demand. And we ask also to the Cameroonian why they come to Gabon to take some Iboga. They say because there is clearly less and less in Cameroon too, in the public domain, and there is a biggest quantity of Iboga in Gabon, in quite whole the country, than in the southwest of Cameroon, where you can find that resource. So, of course, there is some plantation project that exists in Cameroon, but once again, we don't know how much trees has been planted and how old they are, and if they can be sold onto the market. So we are counting the trees. So now, with the national park, we are discussing for January to make that inventory, and we have good news to tell you is that we did find someone to finance that inventory. So we did find someone who did put 150,000 euros on the table to finance that inventory. So now we are working on the project, and we try to add some stuff on the project, like taking some samples of the soils to understand the edaphic conditions of the substrate in the soils that help the Iboga to grow properly and to be charged in alkaloids. We want to make studies also about the different varieties, because there is a lot of misunderstanding about each variety of Iboga. who grow in different places with different rate of alkaloids, different quantity of ibogaine and other alkaloids. And in Gabon, different uses, because we don't use the same species, the same variety of Iboga in Gabon traditionally for the same patents. There is Iboga used for women, Iboga used for men, for young guys, for some particular patents. So we want to make an inventory about different variety and species, inventory of the soil, and to analyze what are the best soil to grow Iboga, because the inventory behind that, we talk about conservation, in fact. It's to count the tree at one point and to count this in the same area, the same area 1 year after, and to see clearly, having a proof if Iboga are decreasing or increasing. So this is very important to do that, to really being able to stop that discussion where most of people continue to say that Iboga is not decreasing in Gabon, and that it's not endangered, and that it can continue for years and years, even if the world market is regulated and everybody wants to hit it. So it's not true, and we want to prove it. So that's why the inventory is very important. But when we do the inventory, we want to spread knowledge about, okay, we have to plant. You can plant, Costa Rica can plant, Mexico can plant. Okay, it's okay, but where we get the seeds, what kind of seeds, it's depend on the soils, what kind of property of soils, what kind of climate, all this knowledge has to be compiled, you said that?
Yes,
yeah? To be spread and shared with people who want to grow Iboga in their own area, of course. Because, for example, for clinics in Mexico, it's good in the future that they're able to grow Iboga near the place, to do not be able to take the plane, to import Iboga from abroad that is not ecological and not sustainable and very expensive. So we have to collect the knowledge about how to grow properly Iboga, different variety, and which variety of Iboga in which environment are the most charged in Ibogaine, because that's what interests most of you guys. It's about Ibogaine. And if we want to make a proper market, we should understand where we have to plant, what kind of variety of Iboga, or we have to care about it to have more Ibogaine in it. Because if you do that, we can make a better profit on a smallest area, because Ibogaine interests people. So Ibogaine is created in the plants through different process. We did discuss about that a lot in Plant Consciousness Conference in London, when I did meet David, about the conscious of the plants and how plants react to the environment around it, and how it affects his DNA and his chemical properties. So clearly, Ibogaine is created because of the environment, the soil, and the environment. There is some relation very clear about Iboga and animals. It looks like the trees, the Iboga trees that are a lot attacked or eaten by animals like elephants into the wild, like buffaloes, like monks, like wild pigs, like birds. It looks like in the area where the animals pull the branch of the Iboga react in creating more high calories and mainly more Ibogaine in it. It makes the fruits more bitter and the roots more strong, and so the animal don't have to eat too much. So basically, the Iboga create more Ibogaine to survive to the attack, because when the Iboga did understood that if he's more powerful in his fruits and in his roots, it will be less eaten by the animals, because they will be quickly drunk, in fact. So that's things that we may study that interest a lot, of course, the national park, because there is a huge link between elephants and animals and this medicine. The question is why the animals are using that plant, because here we talk about how men or human wants to use Iboga, but we should learn too why animals are using the plant. Animals are the first who did start to eat Iboga. And elephants, there were quite some studies about the period they eat Iboga, and they clearly eat the reproduction period to be strongest and to have a lot of sexual energy, and for the reproductive period. So clearly, the less there is Iboga into the wild, less the elephant can reproduce properly because they lose some force and some sexual energies. You may know that Iboga, one of the first properties that has been studied into the West in the 90s, was about, at the very beginning, the sexual properties, the aphrodisiac properties of Ibogaine. So yeah, there is a dependency into the wild with the animals before the humans, and we may think about them. So we have to conserve Iboga into the public domain, into the national park, for first of all the animals, and second for the people around this area who do not own properties. First of them are the pygmies, the Babongo. The pygmies, as also other ethnic group in Gabon, they pick up their resources into the wilds. And Iboga, they don't plant so much. Some people are planting, of course, into their village, but before that, it was into the wild. And clearly now it becomes very complicated to find into the wild and in the public domain Iboga, and you can find that more in the national park. So it creates some a conflict in Gabon. So now people start to plant into the area. So what happened is that Iboga becomes private. It's not endangered, in fact, from the public domain, from the world domain. It's endangered from the public domain. It's not endangered from the private domain, because some people are planting. It's endangered from the public domain, where animals and people who do not have property, who are not owner of lands, traditionally pick up the resources. It becomes private. So there is some huge, there is a lot of now some Iboga plantation project because for 15 years I spread that, and we spread the word in Gabon through TV and radio show and documentary and with Blessing in the Forest all around Gabon. We did explain to people they have to plant it, and the good second news is what it changed since I've seen you in Mexico is that many people did hear the message and did start to plant. And it's not now. I mean, it's not endangered it's not endangered. It will never disappear, but it become private, so it makes the prices increasing. So there is some Iboga plantation project in Gabon. The biggest one is 36,000 Iboga trees in the north of Gabon. It's led by Hervé Ovono, that is the manager of an association called IDRC Africa, that is very involved in the non-timberwood product and fair and sustainable market. Is now part of the largest project called Ibogabon that has been created through a joint venture with the Gabonese government. And this plantation is financed, you know that, because it has been told to you during the last conference in Vienna. So it's true, and it's financed by Gabon and by another company from abroad, but I can't talk about it here right now. So it's because it's, for now, they don't communicate on that. So there is a plantation there. And there is some other project, Blessing on the Forest. We did finance the plantation of 3,500 Iboga into 3 different places in the north east of Gabon, and there is some plantation all around. So yeah, it's growing properly, and there is already some adult resources into the private domain that could be sold for the market. But now, unfortunately, there is some blockage because of the laws in Gabon to be able to sell it for the international market to transform on Ibogaine or to use as Iboga is is that since Gabon did sign the Nagoya Protocol, unfortunately they are like in bankrupt financially, and they didn't find the proper finance teach to the world network how to integrate the Nagoya Protocol, how to to sensibilize the population and the authorities and the army and the police about what is legal, what is not legal, and also about the traceability, because people have to come to the different ministries. We don't know which ministry has to be concerned. Is it agriculture or forest industry? To declare that the plants of Iboga, this quality, this quantity of Iboga, and they want to use it. It has to be. We have to be able to have a proper traceability about that. And it's a huge work that needs to be done, huge work, and it's very expensive and to organize. So we go step by step. The inventory is the next step. And the quality of the soils, to understand how to conserve it properly, to have some seeds to spread knowledge about how to grow it properly, and how to what kind of variety we should plant to have the most quantity of Ibogaine for the market. That's the big deal of 2019 project. It will take some time to make the mission, to take all the information, to analyze it, and to publish something and to translate it. It will take some time. It will cost a lot of money. So it's always about that, about finding the proper finance to do it. But for now, we have some good. We did find a good support through Gabonese different institutions and investors abroad, laboratories and investors abroad. What I can add, I don't know how many time left I have, please, Jamie.
15 minutes in total. I don't know if you want to have questions. We can have some questions from the audience. The questions?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. There's many things to say. I'm sorry, but I'm okay for all questions.
Okay. Questions. Dana.
Hi. How you doing, man? Let me see. I'll come over here. Maybe you can see me better.
Oh, Dana.
Yeah.
Is it you?
Yeah, it's me. This is me, man.
Oh, Dana.
How you doing?
It's great to see you, Dana.
Yeah.
How are you, bro? How are you?
Well, surviving, doing better. We were able to put on this conference. That's something. We had a guy here talking earlier from Belize. Justin Kirkland worked on the total synthesis of 18MC, which is a synthetic ibogaine promoted by the U.S. government, kind of, as an alternative to ibogaine, except they never actually use it, right? But they have something, right, that is a mirage in the distance. But there was material about his presentation was he said we could make ibogaine from scratch from some chemical you can buy from a chemical company, and it's very complicated synthesis, but we could get the price of ibogaine for the world. This is pure ibogaine, not what you're talking about, for $1 a dose, So we don't really want to do that because purified total alkaloid is a better experience for the person who's taking it. They take less, right? The real deal from Tabernanthe Iboga is better than synthetic. Okay, that's all you have to need to know. Yeah, synthetic will work. Synthetic will get rid of heroin. But the trip is not as coherent. People don't learn as much. They're more confused because the other alkaloids are important. We get a synergy. That's why it's only necessary to take 60% as much PTA as you take hydrochloride. So we could get completely synthetic hydrochloride, but we would prefer the plant. What is your reaction to this?
Just another question from
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, we know that most of researches that has been done from Iboga. That's the way
Not actually.
Ibogaine has been known to the world because.
No, that mostly they want, the FDA wants pure Ibogaine.
Yeah, I do understand. Yeah.
They don't want the other
understand.
alkaloids because they say it's not a standard that
but,
they can work with.
Okay, but I mean, Iboga is not only related to FDA and to Ibogaine into one pattern that is opiate detox. Personally, I'm not so much involved in Ibogaine. I'm involved in Iboga. And I take the problem in a different point of view. Because Iboga, unfortunately for me, has been appropriated by the area of Ibogaine and detox. But because it has been spread in the United States into the 60s for that. But before that, Iboga has a long story in the medicine, and Ibogaine has a long story into the medicine because it has been sold in France in 1901 for different other properties, for other uses. And it had been spread into the world, like in Chile, like in many countries, it has been spread. And it has been used in lots of different patterns since its use into the West in 1827. It has been used in lots of areas, lots of different patterns. There's a lot of researches. So we know that the FDA, United States, wants only Ibogaine because they want to know exactly the quantity for the clinical, I don't know what to say, the clinical setting for healing people. They need really something very precise. But I forget what I wanted to say. But we also know that the United States administrations are more concerned about using Ibogaine for different things than opiate detox. They are more aware to legalize Ibogaine or Iboga for treating PTSD. They look very blocked on regulating Ibogaine for detox. They look quite blocked for that. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Could I just say something on that? That's what you can see clinically and what everybody can see clinically is that the total extracts of the Iboga is the better use of it, then more needs to be focused in Iboga sustainability. Because that's the only way to create more of that. If you're just looking at Ibogaine by itself and just that part, yes, of course you can produce a huge amount of it, but you will only get a particular effect. So it's in a way, it's if the market drives for total extract, then there has to be a much more focused direction from clinics and from everybody to go towards sustainability.
Great, yeah.
That is a wonderful setup for my question because a lot of people here obviously are people who work with various forms of Iboga products. And have you tried to write up sort of a best practices for people who want to acquire either hydrochloride or other Iboga products from better sources than some of the worst sources out there? Because, you know, who knows how much of this poached product is actually coming to the market through, you know, I'm not going to say any names, but I'm thinking of, yeah, I'm you know, I'm not going to name any companies, but what should people who are working with this medicine do to try and make sure that their purchases of Iboga products are from sources that are not harming the communities in Gabon and
How to verify where it's coming from?
Yes, and yes, how to verify those.
Yeah, that's the question. Traceability, yeah, of course. Traceability, there is many tools, technological tools, like the extreme solution is RFID on every trees for traceability. It's how the wood industry is built now, actually, to make it sustainable. Every forest load industry now, they put some, they count the trees, they put RFID solution on it to be able to follow it. Now, actually, it's not available now, and in Gabon, it's very complicated into the bush to do it. So we have to know where it's coming from, the area, and people who harvested, how to declare how much they harvest and at what speed. And we have to, and normally the sanitary certificate, when you export Iboga, for example, you should say what is the variety, where it has been harvested, when, etc. You should give some details about it, because when you buy it, you should know normally it comes from that place. It is a 6, 7, 10, 20, 30 years old tree of that variety, and it has been harvested in this time, and by this guy from this company or this association, and ideally where the money is used to for the community in the proper way. It's like Max Havelaar for the coffee. You know Max Havelaar?
Yeah.
Max Havelaar for the coffee. I mean, every fair trade business are based on traceability, in fact.
So, but if you don't have that information, then basically the Iboga that you're using is not traceable, and therefore you simply don't know that information.
Is there anyone who's doing product information like the way you're talking about, or that just
we are the only people that are focused in trying to create this kind of traceability, and actually expressing this to the industry to express, are you interested in traceability? Because if you're interested in traceability, then it means that you're interested in sustainability, and it means that you're interested in helping us to do our job.
Yeah, so the traceability, I mean, it concerns mainly Gabonese investment, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi. So I would ask something about more technical agriculture. I don't know if you're able to answer it, but what would be the viability of planting the Ibogaine shrub somewhere else that's not a natural ecosystem? And if you think it's viable, kind of conditions, humidity, soil type, weather, what's your thoughts on that, and how would that contribute to the sustainable agriculture as well in Gabon, because you'd spread the production?
He wants to understand the different things that you were saying, the different aspects of how to grow it in a different country, and how that's going to impact Gabon.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there is different technique that has studied about how to grow it properly, but the studies about the soil condition has not been done yet properly yet. Yes, but we know that in the soil you need some sand. We know you need some clay. We know you need some iron. We know that the land doesn't have to be acid; it has to be alkaline soil. So there is some area, for example, where you can find a lot of fungus if there is some fungus in an area, that means the soil is acid. Well, if the soil is acid, you can't grow properly Iboga. There is some shape of the land, like it's better, like it's like I don't know what you say.
Slope.
And slope.
Yeah, slope. Yeah, like it's on a slope. Yeah.
It's better like this, and it has to be. It's better when it's in the shadow of the forest, near biggest tree. On the shadow of biggest trees. We know that there is some specific trees that are linked to Iboga, like okume tree, that is a tree that grow quite only in this area in Gabon, that has a resina witty to make the light, and this resina also is transported. This principi in the soil are transported by ants. We know the area where there is some ants is important. We have to study also the pollination of Iboga. Aphrodite and can very quickly mix. So
how will it impact if they grow it outside?
About the period, percentage of how impact. Are you still there? How it impact Gabon if people are growing outside? I would say. Gabon has spread Iboga to the world for a long time ago. And actually, Gabon is looking for being able to make something good for them, sustainable and fair with their forest, with their product. And Gabon is looking for solution to make his economy and to make people in the countryside survive. And if they can make a proper business in helping the world in spreading in producing some Ibogaine is good for everybody because they can also spread so much. That's why there is Nagoya about how they use it, how they associate Iboga or Ibogaine with other medicine, and what other medicine. Because Iboga is just one medicine. In Gabon, there is 800 plant medicine known and used traditionally. There is not only Iboga or Ibogaine. We focus on addiction or PTSD or neurodegenerative pattern or stuff like that. But in the Gabonese medicine, there is many other medicine for many other type of disease. So we want to create economy for Gabon. We want to give them back something for having giving the Iboga to the world. I think it's important. So I just want to tell that I think it's fair that people can be able to plant Iboga out of Gabon, but I think it's fair too that that Gabon can have something back from that wave of interest for Iboga. Sorry, David, you want to say?
Just to say that basically, if I think you said you said the last part. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Okay, listen, we've got to stop now, but thank you very much, David and Jan.
Yeah, I want to felicitate someone in the room. That is Jeff Revede. I don't know if I see him. Jeff Basse, Jeff Revede.
He is there. Yes.
Great job, bro. Well done. There is your twin here. She's just here. And Christopher, hi to everybody here. And if you have any question, we are always open to answer. We want to organize a conference in September in Gabon. We are working on it. I will come back to you soon about that. We want to organize a conference in September 2019. So maybe we can work on that with Jamie or with the people around here. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, let's close it. Okay, we have a 10-minute break, and then it's Dr. Ken Alper.